My mom left a note on my pillow. Sign this. Fair share. Love you. It was a $1,400 rent lease, while my rich sister lived rent-free. They exploited me for months until I discovered they were 2 months behind on the house payments. I used my rent money to buy their entire debt from the bank. The moment they realized their son was now officially their landlord, the room went silent and Dad couldn't even look me in the eye. I'm 32. Army, 4 years active, 2 deployments, out for 6. Monday through Friday, I run rooftop HVAC installs 12-hour days, most weeks. Saturdays and half the Sundays, I pick up warehouse shifts across town. After taxes, I pull about $5,800 a month. Every dollar is spoken for student loans from a trade cert, a truck payment, health insurance, and the retirement account I opened the day I got my DD. 214. I haven't had a full weekend off in 4 months. I wasn't complaining. That was the deal I made with myself when I got out. 8 months ago, my mother called me at 4 in the afternoon, crying. My dad had just come out of hip replacement surgery. He couldn't drive, couldn't shower alone, couldn't manage the stairs. She said she needed someone steady in the house. A few months, she told me. No rent. Just help us through it. I packed a bag that night. I broke the lease on my apartment in the city, paid a $400 early termination fee, and moved into my childhood bedroom the following weekend. It still had the same blue paint from high school. My sister Kayla was already living there. 26, basement suite, her own entrance. She's been between things for 4 years. On Instagram, she's an entrepreneur and a content creator. She drives a leased Audi Q3 my mother co-signed. She wakes up around noon, lifts at a boutique gym across town, and films at night. She has never once cooked a meal in that house. She doesn't buy groceries. She doesn't pay for internet. She DoorDashes lunch and charges it to my dad's Amazon. My parents own the house on paper, a 4-bedroom colonial in a mid-tier suburb about 40 minutes out. What I didn't stop to think about for the first 5 months I was back, and what most people don't know about them, is that they refinanced the mortgage 3 years ago to bankroll Kayla's business, pulled roughly $40,000 in equity, bought her the ring light rig, the camera kit, her laptop, the first year of her Audi lease. At the time, I thought it was generous. I thought it was my parents being my parents. That detail is going to matter. I came home to help. I didn't come home to be billed. The next morning, I was up at 5:15, same as always. Mom was already in the kitchen, making coffee in the same white mug she's had since I was in middle school. She didn't look at me when I walked in. She was waiting for it, for the fight, for the "are you serious?" for the "how could you?" I could feel it in the way her shoulders were set. I slid the signed contract across the counter. Face up. Signature, legible. Initials on every page where they'd marked little yellow flags. "Here," I said. "Per your terms." She looked down at it. Her mouth opened, then closed. She picked it up, flipped to the second page, saw my name, and said, "Oh, okay. Well, good." My dad came in behind her, still in his robe, moving slow on the new hip. He read the situation in about 3 seconds. He clapped a hand on my shoulder and said, "Smart move, son. This'll teach you responsibility." I didn't answer. I poured my coffee, grabbed my keys, and left for the job site. On my lunch break, I drove to the Staples off the interstate and bought a white 3-ring binder. $4.79. Dividers, sheet protectors, a label maker cartridge. In the parking lot, I typed 2 words and stuck the label on the spine. Strategic planning. Before I went back to the job, I drove 2 blocks over to a credit union I'd never used before and opened a new checking account. No auto draft to my parents' account. No paper statements mailed home. Just an app on my phone and a debit card. From that night on, every rent payment I sent them came out of my old account. Every dollar I earned after that went into the new one. They thought they'd broken me. They just hired their own bookkeeper. Memorial Day weekend came 3 weeks later. My mom threw a backyard cookout, hot dogs, coleslaw, the neighbors from 4 houses down. I spent most of the afternoon at the grill because nobody else was going to stand there in 90-degree heat. Around 4 o'clock, I went inside to refill the ice. The kitchen window was open above the sink. Mom was on the patio, 2 feet away, talking to Mrs. Halverson from across the street. "Yeah, Michael's back," Mom said. "He's our tenant now." I stopped moving. "We had to make it fair," she said. "You know how it is. He's a grown man. He can't just live here for free." Kayla's our entrepreneur. Different situation. Mrs. Halverson laughed politely and said something I couldn't hear. I stood in my own kitchen, ice scoop in my hand, and listened to my mother explain me to the neighborhood like I was a rental unit. I walked out, smiled at Mrs. Halverson, handed Mom the ice. I didn't say a word. In my pocket, my phone was on, voice memo running. I'd started doing it a few days after the contract, out of habit, just in case. My state is one-party consent. I'd already checked. That was the first time I hit record on my own mother. A week later, I came out of the house at 6:30 on a Saturday to find my truck missing from the driveway. Kayla rolled in at 9:40, my F-150 bumping over the curb, a fresh crease in the rear quarter panel the size of a grapefruit. She walked past me in the garage with her phone to her ear and said, "Mike, chill, I'll Venmo you for gas later." The tank was empty. The dent was $200 of bodywork, minimum. She never paid for the gas. I asked Dad about it that night at the kitchen table. He didn't even put down his phone. He said, "Mike, come on. You make good money. Let it go. She's your sister." I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and started a new tab in my spreadsheet. I named it Kayla Subsidies. Hair at the salon, charged to Mom's card in front of me, $320. 1 month of DoorDash labeled groceries, $487. Amazon orders on Dad's account tagged content supplies, $612 in 1 month. Tripod, ring light, shotgun mic, softbox. I had screenshots of each. I sat there for an hour, just typing. The list kept getting longer. The column kept growing, and no one ever asked what I was typing. My Discover statement came in on the 15th of July. I opened it over coffee the next morning. $2,800 I didn't spend. A tripod rig from B&H Photo. 2 softboxes. A pile of charges from a lingerie site I'd never heard of. A teleprompter. A phone gimbal. All in the last 30 days. Shipping address. Our house. I walked downstairs with the statement in my hand. Kayla was at the kitchen island, eating yogurt out of the container, scrolling. "Kyla. My cart." She glanced up. "Yeah. Mom said it was fine. I'll get you back when my platform pays out." Mom said it was fine. "Yeah." Mom came in from the garage with grocery bags. She took one look at my face and the statement and said, "Oh, honey, she'll pay you back." "Sweetie, please. Let's not make this bigger than it is. $2,800 charged without my permission is a federal crime. It's called credit card fraud. It's a police report, a dispute form, and a mark on her record for 10 years. I looked at Dad, who had walked in behind Mom. He said, very calmly, "Michael, listen to me. If you report your sister to the police, don't plan on sleeping here." I didn't respond. I took the statement, folded it once, walked back upstairs, and added a new tab to my spreadsheet. Unauthorized charges. I scanned every line item and saved the PDF. The card company's fraud form needs a police report to process a formal dispute. I decided to hold. Not file. Not yet. The statement was worth more to me unreported than reported. That's when I stopped calling it family and started calling it exposure. The next Sunday, Mom asked me to grab her sewing machine out of the basement. I hadn't been down there in 4 months. I went down. The finished half of the basement had turned into a production set. 2 cameras on tripods, 3 softbox lights on stands, a green screen on one wall, the wrinkles ironed out, a ring light, the size of a car tire. On a folding table shoved against the far wall, a laptop was open to her creator dashboard. The earnings banner was in full view. $96,400. Last 12 months. On a second laptop, her OBS software was running a saved profile labeled with the name she uses online. Her work name. Next to it, a payout schedule. Next to that, a stack of adult content release forms, printed, signed, paper-clipped. I didn't touch anything. I stood in the doorway and took 4 pictures on my phone. Wide angle of the setup. Close-up of the earnings banner. Close-up of the release forms with the top one half visible. The ring light reflected in the monitor. I went back upstairs with the sewing machine and asked no questions. That night, I pulled up the city website on my laptop. Residential single-family zoning, section 14.7. No commercial operations, no adult-use businesses. Our HOA covenants, 23 pages, attached to the closing packet from 3 years ago. Article 9. Fines of up to $500 per day for continuing violations, no caps. Article 12. Cause for forced compliance or forced sale. The house they were charging me rent to live in was already in violation, and they didn't know. By the end of August, my strategic planning binder had a younger sibling, a Google Drive folder with the same label, 7 Excel tabs, and 143 photographs, every single one of them date-stamped. Tab 1. Rent payments. 14 months, $1,400 each, a total of $19,600. Every transfer from my account to theirs screenshot and filed. Tab 2. Kayla subsidies $11,000 plus of hair, DoorDash, Amazon, and content supplies paid from mom and dad's cards. Tab 3. Unauthorized charges. Discover $2,800. Tab 4. The truck dent and tow receipts. Tab 5. Utility bills in my name. Tab 6. 4 photos of the basement, wide and close. Tab 7. 2 audio files, time, stamped, each backed up in 2 places offline. I wasn't keeping records anymore. I was building a case against my own parents. I sat with it for a full evening. Somewhere in those hours, the feeling turned. I stopped flinching. Every file was dated. Every dollar was labeled. And none of it was mine anymore. The next Saturday morning, I called an old army buddy of mine. We served together, both E5s, both out the same summer. He went back to school on the GI Bill and came out as CPA. He works out of a small firm now, 1,100 miles from where I was sitting. We were on the phone 42 minutes. I walked him through the spreadsheet. He asked the questions a professional asks: source, backup, dates, chain of custody. When I got to Kayla's earnings banner, he went quiet for a second and said, "Michael, that's $96,000 of undeclared self-employment income. 12 months. She owes between $28,000 and $34,000 to the IRS, plus state. She's not even registered as a sole proprietor." Then he asked about the house. I pulled up the county recorder's public portal on my laptop. "Refinanced 38 months ago," I said. Balance was $184. Then I clicked one more link and saw it. 2 payments behind. It's flagged. He asked me to read the servicer name. I read it. He laughed once, not a mean laugh. A surprised one. "Michael, banks sell notes like that all the time. Distressed paper. At a discount, to LLCs. I've seen 60 cents on the dollar." I didn't say anything. He said, "You could just buy the paper." By Tuesday after my shift, I was at a folding desk in the back room of a co-working space with a notary on standby. $175 filed a new limited liability company in my state. Single member. Sole manager. Me. Rodco Holdings, LLC. On Wednesday, a business checking account. On Thursday, my first call to the mortgage servicer's loss mitigation desk. By the end of the following week, a non-binding letter of intent on the note, 62 cents on the dollar. $114,000 and change against a $184,000 balance. No contingencies the bank cared about. The money came from 3 places. The rent my parents had collected from me for 14 months, every dollar of it sitting in the credit union account they didn't know existed. My Army savings, a portfolio loan against the brokerage account I'd been contributing to since my first paycheck out. They didn't raise a son. They raised their own landlord. Every dollar they billed me for rent ended up as a down payment on their house. The rent they collected from me, I used to buy them. It was just after 2 in the morning when I ran the math for the last time. I was at the kitchen table, the same one my dad built in the garage when I was 9. My laptop was open, my binder was on my right, and the house was quiet for once. Kayla was out, mom and dad asleep upstairs. I had a legal pad, a pen, and the full picture in front of me. If I kept my mouth shut for another year, here's what I would be funding. Another $16,800 in rent, paid to people running an illegal business out of their own house. HOA fines, if the complaint ever landed at full scale, could compound to over $180,000 against the property before my parents even noticed. Every quarter Kayla didn't file, her exposure to the IRS grew. And the mortgage, if they missed 2 more payments, the servicer would either foreclose or sell the note at auction. Some stranger's LLC would walk in, buy the paper, and I'd eat the loss of everything I'd put in so far, with no leverage at all. This is what financial exploitation actually looks like when you stop calling it family. It has a running meter. And the meter was on me, not on them. I capped the pin and closed the laptop. I could keep paying rent to live in a crime scene, or I could own it. Thursday morning, a bank conference room. Gray carpet, rectangular table, blinds half down. The note officer slid a stack of pages across the table. Signature tabs every fourth page. I signed every one. She pushed a manila folder back to me, the assignment of mortgage, recorded, the county filing number, stamped. She said, "Congratulations, Mr. Rodriguez. You now hold the mortgage on this property." I didn't smile. I didn't thank her more than once. I drove straight to the UPS store on Route 9 and mailed 3 certified letters, return receipt on all 3. One to my parents, as the new note holder of record, instructing future mortgage payments to Rodco Holdings LLC at a P.O. box I'd opened the week before. 2 to our HOA's management company, a formal compliance review request for the property, with 4 photos attached and the relevant covenant articles cited. 3 to a tax attorney in the next county, a retainer, and a request for a formal opinion letter on Kayla's exposure should I ever be compelled to report. Back in my truck, I opened the family group chat. My thumb didn't hover. Coffee. Thornhill. Tuesday, 10 a.m. Financial matters. Please be on time. That Thursday morning, I signed papers that made me the owner of my parents' house. They thought they had a tenant. They just got a creditor. I was no longer the tenant. I was the bank. Thornhill Coffee, Tuesday morning. 10 o'clock. I was there at 9:40. I picked the corner booth under the window, the one with the scratched wooden top and the bench seat facing the door. Ordered 1 black coffee from the barista at the counter. Sat down with a manila folder on the table, the Rodco Holdings formation certificate on top of it, face up, visible to anyone who walked by and cared to look. 2 strangers chatted at the table beside me. A guy with a laptop worked near the window. Low music, ambient, no words. I watched the door. They arrived together at 10:02. Mom first, her jacket buttoned against nothing. The morning wasn't cold, hair still wet from the shower. Dad behind her, still slower on the hips, 6 months out. Kayla last, AirPods in, sunglasses on, visibly annoyed to be awake before 11. They slid into the booth across from me. Mom opened with it, the small talk, the softening. "So, how's work been, honey? You look tired." "Mom, we should do Sunday dinner again. We really miss." I cut in, flat. "I'm going to keep this short. This is a financial conversation, not a family one." Kayla snorted into her oat milk latte. "Okay." Boomer energy. Dad's eyes drifted to the folder. He didn't say anything yet. I opened it. The laughing stopped. I laid 3 pages on the table, in order, turned to face them. Page 1, the assignment of mortgage, stamped with the county recorder's filing number. Rodco Holdings LLC. New mortgagee of record. Balance $184,000. Monthly payment $14.78. Due on the 1st. Page 2, a 14-month transaction log. Every rent payment they had taken from me. Every dollar, now sitting in the same business account that had funded the note purchase. Page 3, the rate sheet. On-time payment holds the existing rate. 1 missed payment triggers default interest. 2 triggers the acceleration clause on page 12. "You don't pay me rent anymore," I said. "You pay Rodco Holdings the mortgage on this house. Pay on the 1st or pack by the 15th. Mom started crying. Not loud. The quiet kind, hand over her mouth. Dad's face went red, then gray. "After everything we've done for you. After everything you've billed me for. Michael, you have betrayed." "Dad." "Stop." He stopped. I was surprised, and so was he. The barista walked over with a pitcher and refilled my water without being asked. She didn't look at anyone else. She set the pitcher down and walked back. For the first time in my life, my father couldn't interrupt me. Kayla leaned forward, phone raised. "You're a psycho. I'm filming this. Everyone is going to know what you did." I placed the second folder on the table. "Go ahead," I said. "I brought a copy of yours too." I opened it slowly. I wanted her to see each page land. Her platform payout summary, 12 months, $96,400. A blank one, 099K, never filed. 3 Discover statements with the unauthorized charges highlighted in yellow, $2,800 total. 4 photographs of the basement green screen, ring light, laptop, with earnings banner, release forms paperclipped. The HOA compliance review letter, certified, already sent. The draft tax attorney opinion letter, 2 pages. Kayla's phone slowly lowered. I said it once, calmly, at a normal speaking volume. "You have 30 days. Either you stop, you move, or the IRS meets you first." Mom whispered, "Michael, please, please." I looked at her. You wrote me a sticky note that said fair share. That's what fair share actually looks like. Dad tried one more time, quieter. This isn't fair. I didn't answer him. I closed both folders. I stood up. I picked up my coffee. I walked to the counter, tipped the barista $10 in cash, and left. 3 weeks of evidence. 30 days to disappear. Not a word of violence. 3 months later, every mortgage payment has landed on time. 1478, on the first, every single one. My parents don't call it rent anymore. They don't call it anything, they just pay. Default stopped being an abstract thing when it became a letter from their own son's company. Kayla moved out inside the 30-day window. A creator house in Los Angeles, 4 other 20-somethings, rented under somebody else's name. Her content is no longer filmed at a residential address in my parents' zip code. The HOA review closed as issue resolved. She has not contacted me. Dad sent exactly one text, 2 weeks after the coffee shop. It said, "Thank you for not going public." I didn't reply. He didn't need me to. Holding the paper was louder than any post would have been. Mom texted a month after that, asking me to come to Sunday dinner. I wrote back, maybe next month. I meant it as a boundary, not a promise. She read it that way. I rent a 1-bedroom apartment 12 minutes from the house now. $11.50 a month. My name alone on the lease, a parking spot for the truck, a short walk to a decent grocery store. After taxes, my old rent to my parents was $1,400. I save the $328 difference every month, automatically, to the same credit union account that bought their house. The strategic planning binder sits on a shelf in my closet. Closed, not thrown away. Fair share isn't a feeling, it's a number. They wrote me a rent contract. I turned it into a deed.